Absolute hell, yeah. So,
Good evening, everyone. Tonight I am filling in for Miss Williams. She is unable to be with us, so please be kind to me. I call the City of Conway Planning Commission meeting to order on this day, September 19th, 2022, and we will take roll. Miss Williams is out, and Rebecca Fincher. Alexander Bainey.
Here.
Adam Bell. Letitia Sanders-Jones.
Here.
Ethan Reed.
Here.
Drew Spurgers.
here.
Larry Webb. Greg West.
Here.
Thank you. All right, guys, in front of you, you have last month's August meeting minutes. If you guys have already reviewed those, or if you have any questions.
Motion to approve.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so next up is our subdivision agenda. Let's see here. These items are not subject to public hearings. And first one up is the preliminary plat approval request for the Bird's Nest. James?
Yes, so this application is a 6-lot subdivision. It's about 700 feet east of Thomas G. Wilson Drive. If you remember, this property was up for a rezoning recently with the idea that it was going to be followed up with subdivision. This subdivision is platting a portion of unplatted property and then also combining with 2 existing platted lots from lots 1 and 2 of Mayor's replat. This is the initial phase of development for the site. There'll be additional portions of this that will be platted in the future, but they're starting from the east side and going west. The lot, there will be a north-south street, a collector street that will connect on sort of the eastern half of the property there. That's a north-south. It'll connect to the north edge of the property line, and that will eventually extend to an extension coming out of Lewis Ranch that's up further north to provide some interconnectivity. The remainder of the site will access via a series of little private drives, private streets, which the street will be constructed at the time of platting. The private streets will be constructed as the development on the site is constructed. Each of the lots will access either off of that Veterans Drive, which is the north-south road, or via one of the sort of private access drives as well. So there won't be any direct driveways onto Dave Ward Drive, which is fabulous. And looking at the staff comments, we do anticipate that this section of Dave Ward Drive will be widened in the next 10 years. The existing right-of-way is adequate in that site. It exceeds what our current, it's like 120 or 130 feet of right-of-way through there in spots. So it exceeds whatever we require as a city. The development is consistent with the comprehensive plan, including developing high standards for urban development to ensure lasting quality and developments of business, commercial, and industrial establishments, providing a logical pattern of land uses throughout the community, incorporating an efficient relationship between transportation, public research, services, residential, commercial, industrial, and business areas. Our recommendation for this is approval of preliminary plat contingent upon the completion of the amended punch list and the associated conditions of approval, which you'll see there's three corrections on the plat and then 10 conditions. Those are largely fairly standard. One of the conditions is a planting easement along Dave Ward Drive, just to clarify that there's no access through there. Any questions?
Is the applicant here and would like to speak?
Well, I'm Bobby French, 1021 Front Street, Conway. Really have a whole lot to say. I think James covered most of it. If y'all have any questions, be glad to answer them.
Awesome. You guys have any questions for anybody at all? All right, let's bring it into commission. Any discussion?
I move to approve staff recommendations and comments.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstaining? Awesome. The next subdivision item is for 1600 Place for a PUD.
All right, good evening. So the applicant is requesting preliminary plat approval of a 19-lot subdivision located on 4.06 acres at the southeast corner of South Donaghy Avenue and Favre Lane at that intersection. This development represents a PUD that was approved in May of 2020. The proposed lots range in area from 0.09 acres to 0.35 acres, and the development will take access from both South Donaghy Avenue and Favre Lane. The development will be served internally by a 35-foot private drive as well as a private alley, which will allow access to lots 11 through 17, and no on-street parking will be allowed throughout the development due to the reduced roadway widths. The majority of the lots are planned to be developed as two-family dwellings. Lot 6 is planned for 4 attached dwelling units, and lots 18 and 19 are planned for 6 attached dwelling units, and they'll be served by shared parking areas on the north and south ends of those lots. In addition to the corrections and needed to the plat, you'll find a complete list of the approved PUD final development plan conditions on page 9 of the report. No waivers have been included as part of this request, and staff does recommend approval of the preliminary plat contingent upon the completion of the required corrections and all conditions of approval. Any questions?
Is there, this is vague. I'm sorry, Beth, I didn't mean to start as you walked away. This is vague. Is there any additional consideration given here, somebody to an elementary school, just as an education point for me? I don't have any specific concern. I just wondered, do you guys look at this differently because it's right across the street from an elementary school?
Some consideration was given specifically to how the development on lots 11 through 17 will be oriented, and limiting access and how that access happens to the east and to the north, to the west and to the north.
Awesome.
Is the applicant here to speak?
Hi, I'm Megan Weckworth, 240 Skyline Drive. I'm just here if y'all have any questions.
Do you have any questions on the commission? You're off the hook.
Thank you.
Bring this into commission. Does anybody have any discussion at all on this item? Get a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second? Anybody?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstaining? All right. All right, the next session is for our public hearing items. Do I still need to read this? The Conway Planning Commission makes recommendations to the City Council on public hearing items. Items reviewed on this agenda will be considered by the City Council as early as September 27th, 2022. Items not approved by the Planning Commission may be appealed to the City Council within 30 days of the date of Planning Commission denial, with exception of decisions made by the Planning Commission acting as the Board Zoning of Adjustment. All right, let's get back over here. The first item for public hearing is a request for zoning variance, reduced side setback at 266 Skyline Drive.
Yes, this is at 266 Skyline Drive. It's roughly 3.04 acres, located in C3 zoning. Currently on the lot, you've got 2 buildings. One is an old converted home that's been converted to a commercial building, and then also another commercial building on the lot. What they're requesting is a variance of 1 foot. Currently, if you look on the map, you see the building to the south. It is 11 feet from the side setback instead of 12 feet, which is the requirement. We have reviewed it. We expect impact from the request to be minimal as the structure is already existing. They're requesting this variance in order to replat the property. We would recommend approval with the following conditions. Variances shall apply to the existing structures and shall become void if the structure is voluntarily destroyed by the owner The structure may be rebuilt if destroyed by natural disaster or fire. You guys have any questions?
Questions? Is the applicant present?
Megan Weckworth, 240 Skyline Drive, and I am for it.
Gotcha. Does anybody have any questions for the applicant at all?
No.
All right. Is there
Thank you.
anybody here to speak in favor of? Opposing? Guys have any questions about this? Bring it back into commission.
I move to accept the staff recommendation to approve the request with the conditions indicated in the staff report, and that, as conditioned, it allows for appropriate use of the property and would not likely negatively impact adjacent property.
Second.
Do I need to roll call each of these?
You can do it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstaining? The next item up is for a request to rezone from A1 to R2A at the southwest corner of Lower Ridge Road and Matthews Meadows.
Yes, so we're looking at the 1.2 acre portion, 1.28 acre portion of property there at that southwest intersection, corner of the intersection. The applicant is requesting to rezone from A1, which is agricultural, to R2A, which is our two-family residential district. The applicant has indicated plans to develop the property with duplexes, and after platting, including right-of-way dedication, it's estimated the site can be subdivided into 2 standard R2A lots, which would each accommodate 1 duplex, so 4 total dwelling units. The site's located within the Lower Ridge Road corridor study area, and the comprehensive plan does indicate the site is appropriate for traditional neighborhood development. Traditional neighborhood developments are characterized by compact, pedestrian-oriented, mixed-use design. The site is adjacent to both single-family residential to the west and the increased density Matthews Meadows PUD to the south. In addition, it's in close proximity to Lower Ridge Road, which is a major arterial, which may not consider it that, but it is, and it's, as well as multiple schools, so a slightly higher residential density is appropriate here. In October of 2019, this same applicant was approved to develop a series of duplexes on the undeveloped site immediately across Matthews Meadows Lane to the east. And that approved conceptual plan is included in your report on page 19. The applicant does desire to locate the duplexes for the current request on the same lot. That's not allowed by R2A standards, but increased density is an allowed conditional use in the R2A zoning district. Staff has coordinated with the applicant in hopes of achieving a similar site layout on this subject property, which will create sort of a coordinated gateway or entry to the Matthews Meadows single-family residential development. The applicant has agreed with staff's recommendation, and as a result, will seek a conditional use permit for a slightly increased density at the October Planning Commission agenda. The project will be subject to subdivision requirements, and if the associated conditional use permit is approved, it would be subject to site development review as well. Staff recommends approval of the request, as it will allow for appropriate use of the property, which is consistent with the comprehensive plan, and it will not likely negatively impact adjacent properties. Any questions?
Questions? Is there anyone to speak in favor?
Hi, Megan Weckworth, 240 Skyline Drive. Everything that Ms. Beth has already said, actually. They just want to tear down that dilapidated house and build 2 duplexes on that same site. Rezone for that.
You guys have any questions for her? All right.
Thank you.
Anyone else to speak in favor of? Opposing? Anybody have any other questions about this item at all?
I'll make a motion to approve staff recommendations.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposing? Abstaining? All right. The next item for public hearing is a request to rezone O2 to R1 at 4701 Weston Park Drive.
Yes, this is at 4701 Weston Park Drive, which is west of Prince Street and south of Weston Park Drive. This is the southeastern lot of the previously platted Weston Park subdivision. It's currently 2.02 acres and is zoned O2. They're requesting to rezone this to R1, one family residential district. We're projecting a maximum number of lots to be 11. There may be less than that, but that's the maximum number that they could fit on this parcel. The zoning change is consistent with the land use plan, which has designated this area as single family. You'll see from the picture that there's single family all around it. Across the street is O1, but it's undeveloped land. We will require sidewalks for all street frontages, including Prince Street and Weston Park Drive. And we would recommend approval of the request. Rezoning to a one-family residential district is consistent with neighboring properties and with the comprehensive plan. Are there any questions?
Thank you. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this request?
Bobby French, 1021 Front Street, representing the Hawks on this. And I think basically they just want to build two houses. You know, they're wanting to rezone that to R1 and just build two houses coming in there. It's kind of their goal, I believe. So, any questions?
Anyone else to speak in favor of? Anyone opposing? Easy for me tonight. Thank you. You guys have any questions at all about anything?
No.
I move to accept the staff recommendation to approve the rezoning request on the basis that it will allow for the appropriate use of the property and will not likely negatively impact adjacent property.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? All right, motion passes. All right, James.
All right. There are some small amendments, I would say, to this from what we considered last time, cleaning up a few things, particularly language that related to, if you look on page 26, public notice signs. Essentially, we shortened up the language there so that, because it was a little bit unclear, it said at least one per street frontage and one per 500 feet. And it was like, well, you could read it different ways. So we rewrote it to say one sign for each 500 feet of street frontage with at least one sign per street frontage. So you could have read it to read that it was like, oh, well, maybe it wouldn't be required on that. But anyway, the other main change that is in here relates to the amendment section. So on page 32, under review procedure, so this is for the applications that are amendments that are initiated by a property owner. The review procedure, we've got it set there where it starts with staff review and goes to planning commission review. One of the things that we've addressed in the bylaws are amendments, particularly amendments. We've had some contentious meetings related to requests that ended up getting amended. And at our last meeting, we had an application got amended prior to the meeting, and it worked really well. It was, all of our issues got addressed. It just went very smoothly. So in here, essentially what this allows is that an applicant can amend the application 10 days prior to the public hearing, provided the amendment would result in a lower intensity zoning district. So let's say if you've requested C3 and you find out staff's going to have a lot of opposition to C3, or that there's going to be a lot of community opposition to that, 10 days prior to the public hearing, you can amend that request to C2. That's basically providing enough time so that staff can provide an updated report and get through publishing and all that. So that's the reasoning for that. If it came 10 days, if it's later than 10 days, then it would automatically be tabled. You'd have a public hearing, and then it would be subject to an additional public hearing. So the incentive is, if you're going to amend it, you got to do it at least 10 days in advance. If not, it's going to be kind of a don't bother, essentially, because you'll still have to go through all these different steps. That's really the main changes from what you all have seen previously on this. So
I have one question just to make sure I'm understanding correctly. So in that last one that you were speaking about, let's say they come in on day 5 days before the planned meeting, and they make an amendment. That means it's tabled for this meeting, right? Does we still do the public hearing
Correct.
here, but we don't vote, and then it would come back at the next meeting to be another possible public hearing and voting.
Yep.
Okay.
And that's again the change that occurred in the bylaws. That was to deal with if somebody would come up and they would see, oh, this is how the meeting's going, I'm not going to get what I want, and then change the application right at the last second. And so, in that sort of situation, a lot of times the folks in the public feel like, well, this is a little bit of a bait and switch, and they haven't had a proper amount of time to consider it or think about it. With this, the staff report will have been published, and so that there's at least, I think, some additional consideration, and it's leaning towards. It can only be amended to lean towards being less intensive of a zoning category. So,
Is this something that we're actually going to take action on tonight? Or is
I think it's. I would feel staff's pretty ready for it. Yeah, I mean, I think it's. I've read over this one a lot.
do you guys have any questions for James at all on this?
I don't.
I've got one question. So I know that the commissioners have had this for a while, which is much appreciated. Was this the first time, I guess, it was given to the public, and was there any outreach similar to the other amendments that have been before us, or was this it?
I mean, this one. I mean, we put it out for public hearing. I mean that for this
This meeting?
time. Yeah, I would say for how this affects most things, this is really a procedural cleanup. So this is not really in effect changing a great deal that it relates to. Do you have to do this, or is it going to affect tangibly on the property what someone can do or not do? No. What this is more about is procedural steps, and if you have a conditional use and you don't use it, then it gets revoked. One of the main things we've had recently, we had a conditional use that sat out there for 7 to 10 years, and then the applicant, something happened on another site. They were going to have another similar use next to them, and then they finally decided we're going to develop it. When staff looked at the old conditional use permit for that, we said, wow, I don't think that, we would ever permit that, knowing everything that's changed on this corridor today. We would have said no. And so the idea behind this really is if someone comes in with the conditional use that they're intending to use it, or they're going to, lose their right to do that conditional use, that basically they have an intent to develop. Because so many times you get something that goes in, you have a blanket use for it. We don't have any conditions on it. We have a lot of very old conditional use permits that aren't necessarily protective of the adjacent property.
I appreciate that, and don't disagree at all. The main impact of this is just procedural. I was just asking to know.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
Do you have any other questions?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? All right. Motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second. Great.